Yeah, all right. You guys ready to roll? Everyone has their snacks. All right, well, just a pre-warning here. I don't know. Hopefully this all flows smoothly. Like Evan said, I might pull a Joe Biden up here and just stare and stutter. But I medicated myself this morning, and so we'll see how it goes. Hopefully it goes good. But just to recap here, Jesus, we're closing out chapter 8. So these are the last verses in chapter 8. This is where Jesus is at the Feast of Booths, and it really starts in chapter 7, where his goes from his public ministry, the miracles and whatnot, and then now the Feast of Booths coming in and really exposing who he is, his authority, his deity, and his claims of deity, and how the Jews react to that. So right now, I think this is the last day he's at the Feast of Booths, and so going through here, when he's given his messages at the Feast of Booth, in verse 16, he sets up his authority, and goes through the river of living water, and basically just giving the truth, and there's division going on. I am the light of the world, truth and division. Prior to this, though, he had another I am statement, because that I am the light of the world was one of the 7 I am statements in John. But prior to that, in verse 6:35, chapter 6:35, he was I am the bread of life. And so with that, he was inserting his truth, and there was division. And kind of a key point there too is when he said his first I am, and they were having that hard time. We're supposed to eat your body, and this is weird. Now you're being weird, but they didn't get it. Many of his disciples left, but he didn't go after them. He didn't chase after them. It was just the truth, gracious invitation, division, right? Going on in verse 31, it was the truth will set you free. And again, he's given the truth, and then there's division, and that follows through to where Evan left off last Sunday. Basically, you are your father, the devil. And let's read 45 so we can come into 48. So this is 8:45. But because I tell you the truth, you do not believe me. Which one of you convicts me of sin? If I tell the truth, why don't you believe me? Whoever is of God hears the words of God. The reason why you do not hear them is because you are not of God. So that's coming in now to how the Jews are going to respond to that statement. And up until this point, you see that when he's doing his public ministry, they're first trying to figure out who he is, and then he starts giving his authority, his deity, and just giving the truth. And everything is now, it's worked up into like a big levy at this point. I think we're at a critical stage where the Jews are so angry at him for what he's saying and for how he's exposing them. And at first it's, it was like how John MacArthur laid it out with the debate. There's 4 cycles. There's the intellectual, logical side where you're going back and forth, and well, this is my truth and evidence, and let's hear your side. That's kind of like the more civilized stage. But then when people can't accept the truth, then it goes into emotional state where people start getting angry and getting mad, and you're offending me. I'm so offended. And after that stage, and then it's the verbal assaults, the verbal stage where they just start verbal assaulting you, kind of like, oh, you're a xenophobe, you're a homophobe, you're a this. They start labeling and just trash talking, and then it goes from the last stage from verbal to then physical, where they're so upset, they're so irate, you're still giving the truth, and all of a sudden now it goes physical, where now they're going to put hands on you or try to do something about it. And I think that's where we're at right now. We're at this stage where it's about to blevy, and kind of like if you don't know what a blevy is, it's like a container full of this, let's say a gas, and then the fire starts going, and at some point there's a boiling point on that gas. It vaporizes and then expands and then blows up. So if you've never seen a Blevy, it's pretty amazing. I've seen one, and it's just, once it Blevies and blows, it's awesome. The destructive force, and that's where we're at right now with the Jews and Jesus. Is we're about to Blevy. But let's see how Jesus responds to what they say. And we're going to go ahead and read 48 through 59. So the Jews answered him, Are we not right in saying that you are a Samaritan and have a demon? Jesus answered, I do not have a demon. I honor my Father, and you dishonor me. Yet I do not seek my own glory. There is one who seeks it, and he is the judge. Truly, truly, I say to you, if anyone keeps my word, he will never see death. The Jews said to him, Now we know that you have a demon. Abraham died, as did the prophets. Yet you say, if anyone keeps my word, he will never taste death. Are you greater than our father Abraham, who died? And the prophets died. Who do you make yourself out to be? Jesus answered, If I glorify myself, my glory is nothing. It is my Father who glorifies me, of whom you say he is our God. But you have not known him. I know him. If I were to say that I do not know him, I would be a liar like you. But I do know him, and I keep his word. Your father Abraham rejoiced that he would see my day. He saw it and was glad. So the Jews said to him, You are not yet 50 years old, and you have seen Abraham? Jesus said to them, Truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was, I am. So they picked up stones to throw at him. But Jesus hid himself and went out of the temple. So now we're at that Blevy stage where it went from emotional to verbal assaults, and now they're going to do something about it. So let's for this chapter, or the closing out, there's a lot here. I'm going to first hit the I am, and what does that mean? You know, I am, and he was. Let's see. And how Abraham rejoiced in seeing Jesus in his day, but yet that was hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So how can we reconcile that, and what does that mean? So let's go with Hebrews 11, 13, 16. So Hebrews 11, 13 through 16. These all died in faith, not having received the things promised, but having seen them and greeted them from afar, and having acknowledged that they were strangers and exiles on the earth. For people who speak thus make it clear that they are seeking a homeland. If they had been thinking of that land from which they had gone out, they would have had opportunity to return. But as it is, they desire a better country, that is, a heavenly one. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. So by faith, Abraham, when he was tested, offered up Isaac. And he who had received the promises was in the act of offering up his only son, of whom it is said, Through Isaac shall your offspring be named. He considered that God was able to even raise him from the dead, from which, figuratively speaking, he did not receive him back. By faith, Isaac invoked future blessings on Jacob and Esau. So that's referring back to Genesis. It refers to what's called the Messianic covenant with Abraham, where Abraham couldn't have offspring and didn't have any kids, but God set up a covenant with him that he would give him a son, and through that seed, nations and kings and all that great stuff, and goes into the sacrifice where we all know where Abraham brings up Isaac and is about to sacrifice him, which would have been, like, what are you thinking? This is your only son, the only son that God promised that great nations and kings would come from. But he obeyed God, and that's where we see that the Messianic, not only covenant, but the imagery where God replaces Abraham's only son with his only son to be sacrificed for his people, so he can have those great nations that he said he was going to give them. And so that's what he's referring to, how Abraham was happy to see that, even though he didn't see him. Jesus was there as I am. He gave him the Yahweh, but he was so faithful to see, not only he didn't see it, but faithful to know that it was going to come true. So let's roll into Jesus' response and what that means. So we know through all his ministry, especially here at the Feast of Booths, Jesus just responds with the truth. He didn't mold the truth to satiate the people. He didn't chase people down and be like, well, maybe you misunderstood me. Let me try to make this truth a little easier for you to hear. Let me bend it. Let me mold it. I think the men's study, we're right now at BBC, we're going through Albert Mohler's Truth versus Consequences. And right now we're kind of learning the meaning of truth and how today our truths are truth is objective. But in today, and even back then, the people have found a way to take truth and make it subjective and mold it to them and make it their truth, right? So subjective and objective, but objective, that's the truth. Something objective is like, well, my truth is I think I have to film later in the day, but the actual objective truth was, no, you were supposed to film earlier in the morning. So...
Wow. I thought you passed it up, dude.
So truth does not change. If truth changed, then it never was truth, right? So if it changes, it never was truth, and that's what we see here with Christ. Is his truth is consistent. His truth never changes, and it will always be the same. So.
I'm editing that out.
And also with that, it's a gracious offer. He gives the truth and then gives the offer. Who comes to me will find, living, water and bread, and will never thirst, will never hunger. And he's always given that gracious offering too. And we see that it's continually giving the truth to the people that are the most abrasive, the most against it and against him. But he still gives it. And I think what that shows us is that's our mission field. We shouldn't be out, that's who we should be missioning to and telling the truth to. We should be bold just like Jesus was. And even when they respond negatively, we respond again with the truth. We don't bend the truth. And with that, those that have ears can hear it and will hear it. Those that ears that cannot hear, they will never understand it. They'll never get it. But with that, they won't be blameless. Just because they can't hear it doesn't mean they're going to be blameless. Just because they're not able to, but rather they're exposed. And when they're exposed, their hearts get hardened. They reject it. So that's where they're going to be held to. So MacArthur kind of summed it up when he was talking about this, giving a better picture. Is Jesus gives the truth to the people who don't want to hear it, but it's the grace, because what better way to expose you than give you the truth and expose your falsehoods, your false religions, your sin. Because if you're able to hear it, then you'll see that and you're going to come to Christ. But for those who don't hear it or can't hear it yet, so MacArthur, I was listening to him, said it's kind of like you have a cure for cancer. You have it. You have the cure for cancer, and you go and your best friend, your loved one, you go to him and say, hey, I have a cure for cancer. I want you to take this. It'll heal you. And yet that person is just, no, I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it. But that diligence and that you keep coming because you have the cure. That's the kind of love that Jesus had, even though the people were against him and kept rejecting him. He had that cure, And he wanted to give it to him so bad, or expose it to him so bad. But then again, we heard that if you have ears to listen, you will receive it. And if your ears are closed, you'll never receive it. And it's interesting to see here that I think I already hit on it, that when Jesus' ministry, he did not go and chase after the people that left. Back when he was the bread of life, many of his disciples left. Many of his disciples left, but yet what did he do? He kept doing what he was doing. He kept preaching the truth. He didn't run after them. And I think that's where we fall in today's church, our modern church, is where we go out, we have the truth, but because people outside, their truth is subjective, our truth is objective. Why are we trying to bend our truth to tickle them and to get them in? Why are we out there chasing the people and bending our truth to make, because if once you bend the truth, it's untrue. So we're not, and that's what is just so fascinating is the state of the church now, where, homosexuality is okay. Just come as you are. All are welcome, and remain in your sin. And, just trying to bend to a culture. And when you're bending to that culture, you're bending to the truth. And that is absolutely not what we're supposed to do. We see it consistently with Christ, that his truth is consistent. It's never changing, and it's always there. And we're supposed to do the same, but do not bend to the truth. Do not mold it. Do not try to appease people that can't hear, that won't hear. We're supposed to go out and give them the message. Absolutely. That's our mission. We're supposed to go out there and give them the message, but don't bend the truth. And I think that's what the big thing we can take away from today. So I think with that, we can go ahead and close. All right, dear Heavenly Father, thank you for today that we're able to gather, that we're able to learn, and we have the ears to hear. We just pray that we can go out there and be diligent and to give the truth, and consistently give the truth no matter the cost. And we see that at this point, Jesus has given the truth while standing in the tabernacle, and is now about to be stoned. You have the light of the world standing in a place that was supposed to honor and worship him and you, but yet they rejected and are about to stone him. We also see, Lord, that Jesus hid himself, that we're supposed to be out there and giving the truth, but when it comes to this, we're not supposed to be a martyr just to be a martyr. You have given us protection to give the truth, but also to walk away from those situations. We're grateful that we have the truth. Again, that we just pray that we can diligently go out there and give the truth without bending it, without appeasing our culture, without appeasing our society. In your name we pray, amen. That was short.